Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So if you've been following the pages for a while, you know that on January 15th and July 15th, I start releasing my biannual top 50 skaters in the NHL, just forwards and defensemen. I do the different top 20 goalies list that's going to be coming out soon. But my top 50 players list, and it is July 17th at this point. So over on Instagram, I've already released 31 through 50. And now on YouTube, I'm going to just be giving you the full top 25. Previously, I think last time I did like a 3-part series for YouTube. I'm just giving you this top 25. And when looking at this list, there's not an exact equation, but if there was a rough equation, I'd say it's like 55 to 70% based on this season, 20 to 30% based on last year, and then like 10 to 15 based on prior seasons. This is more so when these players are available, when they are healthy, who I think the best players are. Yes, you could argue that you'd rather build around the guy that consistently plays 82 games than a guy that misses 10 to 15 games every single season. I am just looking at the best players. I'm obviously not factoring in contracts as well when looking at these guys. And unless they're coming off, they had some huge injury at the end of this season, I'm not going to factor in health that much, as well as the fact that it is going to be looked at maybe more so as a playoff mindset. I know the playoff sample sizes are much smaller, but I will be factoring in if somebody has a massive playoff drop off than their regular season numbers. So yeah, that's how we do it. We're going to go through 31 through 50 now. Here's 41 through 50. He actually put Lucas Raymond on the list. He's no longer a Red Wings hater, as well as Dylan Larkin being high. Alexander Ovechkin at 45. 31 through 40. Bratt at 31. Robertson soaring back up on the list after a very strong second half of the season. Clayton Keller, 90 points. Evan Bouchard, people are going to hate that. Slavin, some people will probably have him much higher. I just think the offense is a little bit limited. Brandon Hagel's very underrated, if you ask me, in terms of like high-end players. Monster this year, 5th in even strength points. But yeah, this is currently where we're standing. I'm obviously not going to show you 26 through 30, so we have some intrigue in terms of guys that might not be within the top 25. And when looking at it, to start it off at number 25, and to further emphasize the point that I'm looking at these guys when they are healthy, I have Mark Stone checking in at 25. Yes, he's only averaged like 51 games the last 4 seasons, but we can agree part of that is just him deciding to go on LTIR. Yes, I'm sure he has some injuries, but he definitely stretches it out to a decent degree. But when he is healthy, the last 4 seasons, 25 goal, 51 assist, 76 point pace. Those aren't insane offensive numbers, but then when you factor in the fact that he is one of the best defensive forwards, arguably the best defensive winger in the entire NHL, that is a top 30 player in the entire NHL, in my opinion. I saw that there was some poll, I think it was from Jay Fresh, that had Mark Stone as like the 50th best forward in the NHL. That is absolutely bonkers when looking at him. Yes, he is pretty damn slow, not that effective in the rush, but once he gets set up in the offensive zone or in his own defensive zone, he is among one of the best players in the NHL, one of the best passers. I think his passing is very underrated. When looking at him in the playoffs, 11 goals, 13 assists, 24 points in 23 games back in the 2023 Stanley Cup run, as well as 8 points in 10 games this season. Mark Stone is a little bit overhated and as a result kind of underrated. Again, if this was based on starting a team tomorrow for one regular season, Mark Stone would not be a top 25 player. I don't know if he'd be a top 40, top 50 player for me because he does have some injuries, but when available, there's few wingers that I am taking over Mark Stone in terms of a best of 7 series. So yeah, Mark Stone checks in at number 25. Number 24, Sebastian Aho, another guy that maybe doesn't have the most gaudy point totals, but in my opinion is just that steadfast two-way beast. Last year's offensive point totals actually were pretty impressive, or 2 seasons ago. 36 goals, 53 assists, 89 points in 78 games. This year, still 74 points in 79 games, as well as being one of the best penalty-killing forwards in the entire NHL. He actually had a 41.2% goals percentage on the penalty kill this season, as well as the best expected goals percentage. He's a big reason why Carolina is one of the best defensive teams in the NHL. I think we can agree if he was on a more if he was in a more offensive system, maybe had slightly better wingers, he would probably consistently give you 35-ish goals, 90-ish points. He's had a season like that in Carolina himself last season. But yeah, Sebastian Aho, the best forward on one of the best Eastern Conference teams of the last half decade or so. You got to give him his flowers. And as a result, also pretty good playoff numbers, 34 goals, 51 assists, 85 points. In 89 games, just 2 points per 82 higher than his regular season mark. At 23, Mitch Marner, when looking at it in terms of a regular season player, probably a top 16, top 15 guy in the NHL, 100-point guy that is very good defensively, kills penalties, one of the best passers, setup mans in the NHL. The problem is, obviously, that come playoff time, it falls off a decent amount. His 82 game paces throughout his career is 28 goals, 65 assists, 93 points in the regular season. That is insanely impressive, especially when you factor in the defensive impact. In the playoffs, that falls off to 15 goals, 59 assists, 74 points. And that doesn't even tell the full story as well, considering the fact that since 2019, in games 5 through 7, I think I've said this stat 79 times at this point, he has 0 goals, 7 assists, 7 points in 20 games in those games 5 through 7. Maybe it changes in Vegas. He's a guy that can help get you into the playoffs safely, but come playoff time, you might need someone else to kind of carry the load because he is more so of an undersized skill guy. I know undersized does not mean that you're soft or anything like that, but he does not have this Seth Jarvis kind of play style in terms of welcoming and engaging in physicality. So it does make sense why his playoff numbers do fall off a decent amount. So I think 23rd is a pretty fair spot for Mitch Marner right now. Again, could turn around in Vegas, maybe just Toronto that's messing with him once he gets away from that wretched Toronto media. But yeah, I think at this point, there's such a difference between the regular season and playoffs that I think you got to have him outside of the top 20. At 22, William Nylander. When looking at him, he has really solidified himself as one of the best goal scorers in the NHL point blank period. Back-to-back 40-goal seasons. And this year, 45 goals, which was second in the NHL the last 3 seasons. He ranks 8th in the NHL in goals. Just a speedy winger with great hands. His playoff numbers are better than a Mitch Marner when it comes to that later on in series. So I think William Nylander has safely established himself as a top 25 player in the NHL. You can basically pencil him in for like 40 goals, 85-ish points, solid in the playoffs. William Nylander, 22nd. At 21st, we got Kyle Connor. When looking at him in the regular season this year, very, very impressive. He was not underwhelming, I'd say, the prior 2 years, but was not quite superstar like he was in 2022. This year, 41 goals, 56 assists, 97 points. Obviously, Hellebuck got a lot of the shine, but Kyle Connor was on the first team All-NHL in that left wing spot, as well as being fantastic for them in the playoffs. Kind of carried them, kind of saved Hellebuck's legacy a little bit in that first-round matchup against the St. Louis Blues, where he had 4 goals, 8 assists, and 12 points, including 3 assists, 2 of them being primary assists in that Game 7. Maybe not the best Four Nations performance, but considering he stepped up in the playoffs in a big way and has been one of the best goal scorers in the NHL over the last 6 seasons, ranked 6th in the NHL in goals. Great shot, Kyle Connor, number 21. So now let's go through our 21 through 30. I already broke down 21 through 25. I think Tage Thompson is a guy that is kind of underrated at this point, especially with the way that he's developed his defensive game. Absolute monster. Nick Suzuki was one of the best players in the NHL point blank period, post Four Nations, basically in the calendar year of 2025. Panarin had a bit of a step back, but still is one of the most explosive offensive players in the NHL. Heiskanen needs to get back on track a little bit offensively, but still great. And Nico Hischier, another solid point per game, awesome defensive season. He checks in at number 30. Moving on into the top 20, though, at number 20, I got Zach Werenski. Some people might say that this is recency biased. I've always been very high on this guy. I had him as my number 11 defenseman and number 48 player in the NHL last summer before he was very good back then, but before he really broke out. So when you put up a season that is on the level of a Quinn Hughes, of a Cale Makar, who will be on later on in this video, playing 26-45 a night, being a Norris finalist, having 82 points, 23 goals, I'm going to put you pretty damn high in my rankings. He's one of the best defensemen in terms of off the rush, in transition, entering the zone. He generates so much for that Columbus offense and really turned them into a solid offense this season. So yeah, when looking at it, he doesn't have the longest playoff track record. It hasn't been in the playoffs since 2020, but I tend to believe that a 6'2", 215-pound defenseman that skates the way that he does would be pretty solid in the playoffs. So yeah, I got Zach Werenski at number 20. At number 19, give me Matthew Tkachuk. Not the most gaudy offensive point totals the last 2 seasons since that ungodly 109-point season back in 2023 where he was the Hart finalist, finished second behind Pasta and McDavid. But yeah, he's still above a point per game the last 2 years. Similarly to Mark Stone, not the most explosive skater of all time, but the way that he is able to possess and create high-danger opportunities, and he's such a good passer within the offensive zone, allows him to be one of the best offensive playmakers in the NHL, and he checks in at number 19 as a result. At number 18, give me Braden Point. Bit of a down year by his standards, but his standards are very, very high. He had 42 goals, 40 assists, 82 points in 77 games. Playoffs were a little bit, well, were extremely underrated, underwhelming with only 2 points in 5 games. One of the fastest players in the NHL. Him and Kucherov work so perfectly. Him getting the puck in the zone off the rush. Kucherov cooking once they get into the offensive zone. He needs to bounce back in either the regular season or the playoffs to get back within that like top 16, top 15 range that he probably was, that I probably had him at this time last year, but still an amazing player in his own right. At number 17, a guy that just keeps on rising, Sam Reinhart. When looking at Reinhart, we didn't expect him to repeat his 57 goal season. He was obviously going to come back down to earth, but he still went for 39 goals, 42 assists, 81 points in 79 games. Him and Barkov are just so amazing both ways of the ice. And Sam Reinhart, among the 165 forwards that played at least 1,000 5-on-5 minutes, was the clear leader in terms of expected goals against per 60. He was ahead of Barkov, who did miss some games. And as a result, I think he probably should have won the Selke Trophy this year. And in the playoffs, another amazing run, including that 4-goal performance in Game 7 against the Edmonton Oilers. I think there's a decent argument that at this point, he's the smartest, highest IQ hockey player in the NHL. Doesn't have any insane physical tools, but the way that he just processes the game is so impressive and reminds me of like a Sidney Crosby. Not saying that he's as good as Sidney Crosby, but yeah, I'm very high on Sam Reinhart. And after he stacked back-to-back top 15-ish seasons in the entire NHL, I think you got to put him decently high. Last year was definitely top 15. This year, regular season and playoffs, probably top 20-ish. You got to have him high. You definitely got to have him high, and I have him at number 17. At number 16, give me Rasmus Dahlin, 68 points in 73 games on a pretty bad Buffalo Sabres team. When you look at it, he had a 58.3% goals percentage on that Sabres team, and he had one of the best relative expected goals percentages in the NHL, 53.3%. When he was on the ice for the Buffalo Sabres, that fell off to 44.2% without him. When looking at it, he basically does everything at an extremely high level outside of like entry denial. But offensively, 6'3", the way that he skates, he's the whole package in terms of a defenseman, maybe the best physical tools among a defenseman. And I think if he was in a better situation, most people would have him within their top 20. Like I do personally. At number 15, another defenseman, my guy Adam Fox, who I always defend and glaze a shit ton. Since 2021, has probably been the most consistent defenseman in the NHL, analytical darling across the board. Even this year in his down year, had 61 points in 74 games, had a 58.3% goals percentage on a New York Rangers team that only had a 51.14% goals percentage at 5-on-5. His relative expected goals percentage, 11.5 on the New York Rangers. Second place was 2.2. He absolutely carried this team, this New York Rangers team. I know that they weren't that good of a team, but they would have been even far worse without him. That defense core is total shit that he has just been propping up for multiple years. He's been playing with pretty lackluster partners like Ryan Lindgren. And when looking at it, although the Four Nations performance, people are going to talk about it a lot, he did have literally a legendary playoff performance back in 2022 when he had 23 points in 20 games. 2024, he was injured to a degree. Yes, the skating isn't awesome, and that's why he's not in the same tier as Quinn Hughes or Cale Makar. But basically, everything else that he does on the ice, he does an extremely high level, maybe the highest hockey IQ, like I talked about with Sam Reinhart, among a defenseman, always in the right position, damn good defenseman. We sniped him at 35-1 on FanDuel to win the Norris next season. He's already down to 20-1. Adam Fox, I will defend him, and I think with Gavrikov, people are going to yet again remember how damn good this guy is heading into next season. 14th, sticking in the tri-state area, the Hudson River area. I got Jack Hughes. When looking at Jack Hughes, I'm always going to defend this guy to a degree. Probably the best transitional player off the rush in the NHL that's not named Connor McDavid or Nathan McKinnon. When looking at his production in recent years, 36 goal, 59 assists, 95-point pace in the last 2 seasons, obviously in 2023. Had that monster season. He needs to put on weight. He needs to get more physical. Four Nations, he did get tossed around a decent amount, but he did have a good playoff run back in 2023 where he had 6 goals, 5 assists, 11 points in 12 games. Just the skating ability of this guy allows him to be one of the best offensive creators, and he's just such a damn good passer as well, and has really developed his finishing. That was his big knock early on in his career, and now he's giving you a 35-ish goal pace the last 2 years on top of that 2023 season. Jack Hughes, hopefully he can stay healthy. His shoulder is like a Pringle at this point, but when healthy, he just straight up is one of the best centers in the NHL and one of the most electrifying players In open space, 13th, Sidney Crosby. Unk most definitely still has it for the youngings, that phrase. Since 2019, he's basically just been able to stay at around 30, mid 30 goal pace, 90-point pace. We thought, oh, maybe he'll fall off at some point. He just simply has not. No longer the best, no longer the defensive player that he once was. That's the one area of his game that he's maybe regressed, and part of that is Pittsburgh's just a worse team. But still, a 95-ish point guy that can get you near 40 goals every single year. And unless they trade Rust and or Raquel, I have no reason why not to think that he's going to put up that. Yet again, still one of the smartest players in the NHL, one of the best passers. Sidney Crosby is still a true franchise number one center. At 12th, give me Mikko Rantanen. When looking at him, like the most up and down season of all time on Colorado, he had 25 goals, 39 assists, 64 points in 49 games. Just another elite top 15 season in the NHL for Mikko Rantanen. Gets traded, only has 24 points in 33 games in Carolina or Dallas. Understandable, that much change in terms of lifestyle and coaching fit, play style makes sense. In the playoffs, he only has 1 point in his first 4 games. Then in a 6-game stretch, he has 9 goals, 8 assists, 17 points to help beat the Colorado Avalanche as well as get up on the Winnipeg Jets. And then in his final 8 games in the playoffs, the end of the Winnipeg series as well as the entire Edmonton Oilers series, puts up a goose egg in terms of goals, 4 assists in 8 games. But still, it's more so, you take the good with the bad, but there's a lot more good with Mikko Rantanen, considering this guy is 6'4", 225 pounds, has all the skill in the world, and in the playoffs has insane playoff numbers, 43 goals, 80 assists, 123 points in 99 career playoff games. One of the most lethal shots in the NHL, 5th in goals in the last 3 seasons. I think a full season under Dallas, in Dallas, I think he's probably going to go for 45 goals, 50 assists or something like that, 95 points, and just be an absolute tank. They call him Moose for a reason, and yeah, he just completely took over in that Colorado series as well as the start of the Winnipeg Jets series. A special player. At 11th, I have Jack Eichel. This might be the most confident that I have in a spot on this list, besides the top 3, of course, just because I think Jack Eichel is clear of a Mikko Rantanen, of a Sidney Crosby, but he's not quite ahead of the guys in the top 10. He's awesome. This was his best regular season since at least 2019, 2020, and that was the last time that he was fully healthy in a regular season, with 28 goals, 66 assists, 94 points in 77 games. One of the best skaters in the NHL, which makes him just an absolute demon off the rush. And when you have the shot that a Jack Eichel has, it's special. And especially his defensive game has come a long way, basically once he got to Vegas, because he started playing with Mark Stone. But yeah, now he is that complete two-way number one center that has so much skill and so much speed. In the playoffs, has a career 43 points in 40 games in that Stanley Cup, on that Stanley Cup run in 2023. Led the entire playoffs in hockey. So any concerns about Jack Eichel not being a winner when he was in Buffalo completely got disproved, because he's been awesome in Vegas, and he's the 11th best player pretty firmly for me in the NHL. 11th best skater. At number 10. Actually, no, let's go through the 11 through 12 now. Eichel, Rantanen, Crosby, Hughes, Fox. I feel like Fox and Hughes are probably going to be the 2 ones that you guys are going to say lower. I'm not sure who you would argue for higher here. Maybe you would want like Marner or someone else to be higher. But yeah, we're going to move on into the top 10. And at number 10, Alexander Barkov. I'm also pretty confident in this spot here. I know some people are probably going to want him to be higher. Amazing defensively. He is the Patrice Bergeron of our generation. Him and Sam Reinhart were absolutely ridiculous the last 2 years. He has posted unreal results, deserving of the Selke Trophy, although I probably would have given it to Sam Reinhart on a per-game basis. He was better than Sam Reinhart. 6'3". The way that he's able to possess the puck, especially along the boards, I think of that Orlov goal in the Carolina series, is just... it's just awesome. 6'3", 215 pounds. He's able to extend plays. Doesn't have the offensive tools in terms of in transition, the amazing shot to quite put him in like top 7 conversations, in my opinion. But I wouldn't call you crazy if you have him number 9. I wouldn't call you crazy if you have him number 8, just because he has probably been the best skater on the Florida Panthers for both of their Stanley Cup runs. He has had brilliant offensive seasons back in 2022 when they were one of the best offensive teams of all time. But yeah, until he puts together the full season with the offense and the defensive capabilities, I think 10 is a fine spot for Mr. Alexander Barkov. At number 9, I am going to go with Quinn Hughes, the clear-cut best defenseman in the NHL last season. This year, on a per-game basis, arguably the best defenseman in the NHL. He did slow down in the back half of the year, but of course he was dealing with injuries. When looking at the value that he provides this Vancouver Canucks team, led the NHL in relative expected goals against in all situations by like 5% by a defenseman. What he brings to the table in terms of exiting and entering his own zone, or in his opposition zone, entering his opposition zone, he is just the best at it in terms of the NHL year over year. Arguably the best passing defenseman in the NHL. The way that he's able to stretch the ice is so impressive, and defensively with an active stick, maybe not the biggest guy, has become a damn good defensive defenseman. Back-to-back elite seasons. I can understand you maybe having him higher, just doesn't quite have that amazing playoff run that we maybe look for our top 10 guys. But still, he was pretty solid last year in the playoffs, and it's unfortunate that he wasn't in the playoffs this year because he was on Vancouver. Quinn Hughes checks in at number 9. At number 8, give me David Pastrnak. When looking at David Pastrnak, he's a one-man offense. The last 3 years, he has really carried this Boston Bruins offense. This season, he did start off a little bit slow by his standards, only 38 points in 40 games. How many points do you think that he had in his final 42 games? It's 68 points, like 130-point pace, playing with like Morgan Geekie as his best line mate. I like Morgan Geekie. He ain't a legit true first liner. So yeah, he has been dragging this offense. I don't have the stat on me, but I'm sure if you compared the raw totals of him versus second leading scorer on his team compared to other people in the league, it's probably like, what is it, the last 3 years? Like 120, 110, like that blows anybody out of the water in the NHL. The way that he is able to just create offense, score goals with not a ton of talent around him, makes him a no doubt top 10 player in the NHL for me. At number 7, I got Cale Makar here. Monster offensive season this year, 30 goals. First guy since Mike Green to do that. 62 assists, 92 points. Awesome this year. Well deserving of the Norris Trophy, especially because of Quinn Hughes' injuries. Was just a very good season. Last year was a little bit lackluster. Probably wasn't a top 5 defenseman. And his numbers away from McKinnon are a little bit startling. I'll flash them on the screen right now. Only a 41% expected goals percentage, 48% scoring chances, 40% high danger chances. He's awesome. Don't get me wrong. And especially not this year in the playoffs, but prior playoff runs, he was amazing. But I think a 7 spot is fair when you factor in the McKinnon numbers. I feel like I'm shitting on him too much just because I know everybody's been saying that he should be top 5. He's number 7 for me. I still love him. I think 4 through 9 on this is pretty interchangeable to a degree. And I have Cale Makar at number 7 as a result. Outside of 2024, every single year since 2021 has been a top 3 defenseman pretty easily. Probably would have won the Norris in 2021 if he wasn't hurt. Arguably could have won it in 2023 if he wasn't hurt. Probably would have won it over Erik Karlsson. He's great. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, number 7, I think, is fair for Cale Makar. Number 6, Nikita Kucherov. When looking at it, Kucherov, back-to-back awesome regular seasons, back-to-back Art Rosses. Last year, 44 goals, 144 points. This year, 121 points. He can truly drive his line, drive a power play. When looking at this guy, he often looks nonchalant as hell, but it's just because he's processing the game at a different level and using a change of pace to kind of throw opponents off. The production has been nuts in the regular season the last 2 years. Playoff-wise, hasn't scored a goal the last 2 years against the Florida Panthers in the playoffs. I'm not trying to say he's some kind of playoff choker because he was crazy in 2020 through 2022. But when he is a winger that is not very good defensively, I think that I'm not some kind of amazing goal scorer. I think compared to the 2 guys that I have ahead of him, that you probably know who it is at this point, I do value goal scoring more than assists. And playmaking, I think number 6 is where I land. Nikita Kucherov. At number 5, Austin Matthews. This is an emphasis on when he is healthy, because in 2023, 2025, he was dealing with injuries. Clearly, he was still very good in those years, but he was not a top 10 player in the NHL. I'm definitely holding on to 2024 at these when he had 69 goals, when he was Selke level. Like, that was just a special season, in my opinion. Arguably probably should have been in more so Hart discussions than he actually was, just because he didn't hit 70 goals. 1 goal difference was the difference between him probably finishing top 3 and not. But yeah, when looking at Matthews, the playoff numbers are less than ideal. And I know I'm probably going to get shat on for that when I have Marner so low, but I have Matthews still at 5th overall. But still, when he's healthy, best goal scorer in the NHL, Selke level defense. I still value that a shit ton. I think number 5 is where I slot in Austin Matthews. Number 4, I got Kirill Kaprizov. I could already hear the comments. That is absolutely insane. Let me talk to you. Let me talk to you real quick. When looking at Kirill Kaprizov, to start out this year before the injuries happened, 23 goals, 27 assists, 50 points in 34 games. That's 55 goals, 65 pace over an 82 game schedule. On top of last year in the back half of the year, the final 46 games, he had 38 goals, 33 assists, 71 points. That's like 130 point pace with like 65 goal pace. Yeah, he's awesome. And this year in the playoffs, he was awesome as well. Maybe not the final game or two, but 5 goals, 4 assists, 9 points in 6 games. He put the fear of God into the Vegas Golden Knights to start in that series. And he's done all this production with like Ryan Hartman in prior years as his center. Now Marco Rossi is a good player, but not a true number one center. Even when he plays with Eric Sinek, I love Eric Sinek. He ain't a true number one center. He is that winger that can completely drive his own line to some of the best results in the entire NHL. And he does offer a lot more of a goal scoring aspect than Nikita Kucherov. In my opinion, he's actually pretty solid defensively. I'd say above average to maybe even good compared to a Kucherov. So yeah, I got Kirill Kaprizov this high. This guy was the MVP favorite 34 games into the season, on top of, again, that back half. And in 2022 had an insane season. In the playoffs, 2023 was not very good, but 2022 he had 77 goals, 1 assist in 8 games, or 7 games played, 6 games played. He was awesome in that series. And yeah, with not a ton around him to be that productive, similarly to kind of to a David Pastrnak, I got him at number 4. And now into our top 3. Gonna be pretty chalk, I'm not gonna lie. Leon Draisaitl is our number 3 guy. You can make a strong argument for number 2, or considering the fact that he was, without a doubt, the best skater, forward, or defenseman in the NHL this season. 52 goals, regular season at least. 52 goals, 54 assists, 106 points in 71 games. The underlying offensive numbers were insane. Evolving Hockey's expected offensive stat, he led by 13, which was like 30% more than the next closest guy. He was doing this while not solely playing with Connor McDavid. He played a lot with Podkolzin, Skinner, Arvidsson, and Kapanen. And when he was away from McDavid, when we look at the on-off numbers, he was actually better on his own than McDavid was on his own this season, at least. 6'3" tank, one of the best passers in the NHL. Just won the Rocket Richard, one of the best goal scorers. Just does everything at an extremely high level. And is better defensively now than prior years. That was kind of the knock on him, how bad he was defensively. Not saying he's like sniffing a Selke anytime soon, but he's average. He's average now defensively. It's not a deficiency. He really doesn't have any negatives or deficiencies in his game at this point. Awesome, awesome player. At number 2, Nathan MacKinnon. When looking at Nathan MacKinnon, also on Draisaitl, he's 5th all time in terms of playoff points per game. Nathan MacKinnon's number 6. So Nathan MacKinnon checks in at number 2, 116 points in 79 games this year, as well as 7 goals, 4 assists, 11 points in 7 playoff games. An explosive guy, one of the best guys off the rush. It just looks like he's shot out of a cannon when he's breaking out. It's awesome to watch, and especially goal scoring wise. Last year, not really this year, but he has 50 goal potential, as we saw last season when he had, I believe, 51 goals, 89 assists, 140 points, won the Hart Trophy. This year, not as good in the regular season, but this guy since 2018 has pretty consensusly been the second best player in the NHL most years, or just regarded as the second best player. Nathan MacKinnon checks in at number 2. And then at number 1, shocker, Connor McDavid, number 1. Wow, I really went on a limb with that. He has not sniffed a Hart in the regular season the last 2 years, in part because of injuries and just lackluster goal-scoring numbers since that 153-point season, but still has been a monster in the regular season. 100 assists last year, 100 points in 67 games this year, on top of course, in the playoffs, 75 points in 47 games in the last 2 playoff runs, basically willing the Edmonton Oilers to the Stanley Cup final. Both of those years, I have never seen a skater like Connor McDavid in my life, and the way that he's able to slow down the game, process the game, despite going those unreal speeds, is so impressive. I would love to see the goal scoring get back on track, and if he wants to win another Hart Trophy, he can't be giving me 25 to 30 goals or something like that, or no, 30-ish goals. You got to get back into those 40s and 50s. But yeah, I don't think I have to explain myself too much. Until MacKinnon and Draisaitl outperform him for like back-to-back regular season and playoffs, I can't consider even moving Connor McDavid out of the number 1 spot. He is generational. He lived up to the hype, and he's going to be one of the greatest, if not the greatest player of all time. So here is the 1 through 10. Let me know if I'm off base on Kirill Kaprizov, man. I just love that guy. I've always been a Kirill Kaprizov guy. So 1 through 10, 11 through 20, 21 through 30, 31 through 40, 41 through 50. The MB Top 50 is in the books. Let me know in the comments what do you think. I don't think I forgot anybody. I went through this so many goddamn times, and I'll be seeing you in the next one. Peace.